Possibly some of the most mercurial content in the game, Titan assaults are only available for a few days following a concerted effort by the community to whittle down their territory. Once vulnerable, commanders are tasked to infiltrate the Titan's maelstrom cloud and damage its core. This doesn't even resemble any other content in the game, and you have to know exactly what you're doing ahead of time. But before we can dive in, we need to get set up for our attack run, and that means modifying our ship build. Titan killer builds are not so different from standard AX combat builds that it's beyond a temporary retrofit, but for convenience, I do think it's worth outfitting a brand new hull if you have the time. But the clock is ticking. The most important part is that the ship must be able to maintain a temperature below 20% for an extended period of time while moving. That means a ship that has good thermal efficiency and capacity. A low-emissions power plant is a practical necessity. The second most important part is being outfitted with caustic sink launchers. These are available for credits from any rescue megaship, and can be engineered to have additional capacity, which I highly recommend. Lastly, you must equip a Thargoid pulse neutralizer, or follow a friend who is using one. These function similarly to a shutdown field neutralizer, with a dramatically higher system's capacitor draw. And you won't be able to approach the Titan without one, although once you are in, it can be forgotten. An important consideration is that any Guardian technology, save for nanite Guardian torpedo pylons and Guardian hull reinforcements, will rapidly melt once you enter the system that the Titan is in. Non-pre-engineered Guardian modules can now be immunized to this effect using materials from Thargoid spire sites, although it is mostly only useful for Guardian module reinforcements, as Guardian power plants won't run cold enough and stock Guardian weapons will not offer competitive burst DPS for our purposes today. For weapons, you will need to equip one Guardian nanite torpedo pylon, purchasable with credits, and believe me, one is enough. The remainder of your slots are somewhat preferential. A single, long-range thermal vent beam laser can provide a modicum of comfort in keeping your hull temperature low to avoid harassment and decrease incoming damage, but many pilots operate without one. I highly recommend one. Pre-engineered AX missile racks are something of a meta pick for Titan bombing in particular, although in my experience they perform similarly to Azimuth AX multicannons. Both of these options take a while to unlock, and if you're scrambling for time, enhanced AX multicannons, purchasable with credits, are more than sufficient. In the end, your choice of anti-Xeno weapon that functions within maelstrom fields will get the job done to varying degrees of efficiency. For utility mounts, I recommend 2 caustic sink launchers, especially if you don't have the time to upgrade them. The caustic cloud that we're going to traverse is very spicy, and I found one to not be enough. A Thargoid pulse neutralizer is necessary, and you can fill the final slot with a pre-engineered Sirius heatsink launcher as a panic button. As usual for an AX build, we want military composites with heavy-duty deep plating. A Grade 5 low-emissions thermal spread power plant will help us run cold enough to traverse the minefield without issue and stay under the radar well within the Titan's domain. Thrusters should be dirty-tuned drag drives. They may run hot, but we need the speed boost, and clean tuning isn't going to cut it. If full thrust puts you over 20%, then you can consider using thermal spread experimental effect, or in the worst case, Grade 5 clean tuned with drag drives, but only if you're running way hotter than you should. A-rated life support as usual for an AX build, canopy breaches are common. An A-rated high-class power distributor will be nice, although if you're using missile racks, the actual strain put on your distro is surprisingly low. So low, in fact, that you may want to consider a systems-focused distributor for the first time in your life in order to give you more margin for error on your neutralizer on the way in. But charge enhanced is statistically the best for most purposes, if a little unnecessary here. I recommend a charge enhanced in order to let you continually use a beam laser to vent heat while also being able to boost for your attack run. I always recommend A-rated sensors for combat of any variety, although long-range modifications won't be needed. These will be pretty heavy ships with bad jump ranges to boot, so lightweight engineering is optional. The optional internals follow the general blueprint of a cold orbit, shieldless hull tank. 1 cargo hold, 1 D-rated Class 5 repair limpet controller, fill all remaining slots with heavy-duty deep plating, and 2 module reinforcement packages. Decontamination limpets can be considered here, especially if running with only 1 caustic sink. But be advised, replacing a repair limpet with a decontamination limpet will cut your effective repair capacity to 1/3 of what a repair limpet could manage, while being heavier. At the very bottom, we slot in an auto field maintenance unit for module and canopy repairs. If you were lucky enough to grab a corrosion-resistant Class 6 cargo rack from the community goal, you might as well use it here as it will allow you to scoop up anything juicy you happen to see along the way. Although, I normally don't. Now that we have our ship outfitted, and we haven't forgotten to fill our hold with limpets, we plot a course for the Titan system using the Thargoid War menu option in the galaxy map. Our first approach will be scouting. Before you can engage the Titan, you must find its maelstrom cloud. This means honking and using the FSS to locate it. Thor's maelstrom cloud is orbiting the third planet, which is classified as a water world. Interdictions from Thargoids will be fast and constant, which means you'll probably get interrupted a few times during this process and on approach. If you're using missile racks, you have virtually no way to defend yourself against Thargoid scouts. So you'll want to submit and escape, which means taking some damage. And the system itself is not a good place to patch yourself up, which is why I recommend locating the Titan and then returning to base for repairs before continuing if necessary. The second time you drop in, you can now beeline for the Titan's location. You'll probably get accosted along the way, but there's not much you can do about it. Now that we finally have finally dropped in on the area of deep breaths, deep breaths. Where's that inhaler? Now that we finally dropped in on the area of the Titan's maelstrom cloud, we need to traverse the minefield. This is where the thermal properties are important. If you're above 20% hull temperature, then you'll get tagged by a caustic mine, which is not what you want. You can go into your module window and shut off your FSD, repair limpet controller, AFMU, and even your sensors if necessary, in order to lower your current running temperature. And yes, sensors aren't necessary on approach. In fact, you won't need them until you begin your attack run. The fact that Guardian hull and module reinforcements have a constant power draw actually makes this temp check harder to pass, so be advised. Boosting is a bad idea. It makes you run hot, but we still want to move at a brisk pace. You can get yourself up to maximum speed and then toggle flight assist off and then run down to 0 throttle in order to continue moving at a lower thermal load, although you shouldn't need to, and I don't recommend it. There's a lot of turbulence in here. Once you pass the minefield, your next worry is caustic damage. You will be taking it constantly in this outer cloud and in large amounts. A little bit of hull damage is no worry, but letting it build up will just make your caustic sinks take longer to finally purge it, so make sure to eject your sinks when they are saturated. The faster you move through this cloud, the fewer sinks you will need to eject. After you start to see blue lightning, put pips into systems and prepare to use your Thargoid pulse neutralizer. The timing is a bit tricky due to how power-hungry the neutralizer is, but it's still reasonable. Activate it as soon as you see the blue cloud approaching and keep it held for as long as you can. With the pulse having passed over you, you are now far enough away from the minefield to begin boosting safely. An important note while traversing this cloud is to not stray from your path. Your sensors, if you have them powered, will be targeting random points in space with no relation to the actual location of the Titan, proceeding directly forwards towards what you perceived to be the center of the cloud upon entrance, and the origin point of the Thargoid pulse should lead you in the correct direction. Eventually, you'll clear the caustic cloud and enter an asteroid field. This means you're within the Titan's inner domain. Considering that the Titan is over 10 kilometers in diameter, they can be surprisingly tricky to locate at this point, but thankfully the danger at this stage is minimal. Once you have eyes on the Titan itself, you'll want to identify which side you are on. One side contains the thermal vents, while the other side contains the core. You'll want to nuzzle yourself into the crannies on the side with the glowing thermal vents and perform repairs, and power up any modules you may have turned off. If you're using a beam laser, you can fire them continually against the hull of the Titan to stay under the radar. Now that we're inside the Titan's domain, the caustic cloud will no longer be attacking us, and while we don't have to worry about mines finding us if we run hot, we do have to worry about hostiles. If accosted by Thargoids, get some distance, lower your temperature, and hide. Retreating to the far side of the asteroid field is viable so long as you can pop a heatsink to break their targeting. During the entire process of bombing and setting up for a bombing run, you will not need any pips in your system's capacitor. It will only drink 1 megawatt when deploying a heatsink, which you may not need to use anyway. If you are using missile racks with a thermal vent beam laser and you have a charge-enhanced power distributor, you can afford 4 pips into engines and 2 pips into weapons. Multi-cannon or Gauss cannon builds will need to compromise for more weapon power. Torpedoes and missiles take virtually no resources. We are now ready to make our attack run. As near to the classic Star Wars trench run as you will ever get in this game. This is a simple 3-step process. Step 1. Wait for the thermal vents to glow orange. Ready your torpedoes and begin strafing the Titan structure. Lock onto the thermal vents and fire a torpedo as soon as you have acquisition. These torpedoes are fire and forget and rarely ever miss. With good piloting, 3 vents is an achievable goal, although you can do better. Boosting while using thermal vent beam lasers will allow us to move fast enough to hit multiple vents while also avoiding too much damage. Step 2. The very instant that you fire your last torpedo, cross over to the other side of the Titan and unload as much damage as you can into the giant glowing weak point. This will draw a lot of attention from the bugs, but it's the reason we're here. You will receive combat bonds commensurate with how much damage you dealt to the core in this time. 2 million credits in combat bonds the week before the Titan dies is required, before you will be considered to have participated in slaying the Titan. Any additional combat bonds beyond that point are simply for bragging rights and credit grinding. Step 3. When the core attracts, try and line yourself up with the exact opposite direction of the Titan's core, heading upward, so to speak, and boost away as fast as you can. Every time the core is made vulnerable, a large damaging field is discharged in a sort of bundt cake or donut-shaped bloom. This pattern provides the most breathing room directly above and below the exact center of the Titan's disk, which is why we escape in the fashion we do. From here on, all that we can do is repeat these steps. After each attack run, you'll want to return to a hiding spot on the Titan's venting side, or simply loiter in the distant asteroid field to repair, and wait for the thermal vents to become vulnerable again. Since there is a substantial amount of downtime in this process, we can utilize repair limpets to patch up our hull damage. It takes a really long time, but the effective max hull health of a cargo bay of 64 of these things is orders of magnitude stronger than a simple hull tank build. Starting out, 1 million credits and bonds per run is a good target. With experience, the appropriate build, and solid execution, you can do more. Much more. I can manage over 4 million per run, meaning I only need to do 1 run in order to qualify. The credit per hour is not particularly great, but also you can do worse. And it's kinda fun. Shocking, I know. After you've done your part, the next complication is leaving, and there are 2 schools of thought. Simply logging out of the game will place you outside the Maelstrom, a fast, safe, and efficient option. The direct word handed down from FDev is that logging out via the game's pause menu is always legitimate due to the built-in logout timer during dangerous situations. Punishment is ostensibly only considered when the game's application is ended prematurely using Task Manager. But if that doesn't sit right with you, you're in for a doozy. Driving out of the Maelstrom cloud carries all of the same dangers as driving in. You will need to use your Thargoid pulse neutralizer to not get tagged by the heavily damaging blue lightning wave, which will trigger as you depart. In addition, you will need to use as many caustic sinks to leave as you did going in. Using the neutralizer on the way out is not easy, as you can no longer see the pulse coming towards you. You may consider coasting on momentum out of the cloud while facing backwards, or using reversed thrust so that you can see the pulse approaching. But this is slower. Reverse thrust is about half speed, and I would not recommend it. It's also unbelievably disorienting to try to drive backwards in turbulence. You also have to be careful because the neutralizer generates a lot of heat while activated, and as you can see here, it's easy to get accidentally tagged by the minefield while leaving due to having enough heat in your system from using it. A faster and more unintuitive way to exit the cloud is to simply ensure that your hull HP is very full before leaving and to just eat the pulse wave raw. This will do astounding damage to your vessel, but it will also propel you at impossible speeds beyond the reach of the cloud. So it can be convenient, but likely won't save as much time as it will take to wait on your repair limpets to get you up to snuff. This entire process took me an hour from the start of recording to finish, and that was after I forgot my limpets and then returned to base a second time to zip up my engineering. So if you're looking to get in on the limited rewards, you'll definitely be spending most of your time preparing your ship for the unique obstacles this content poses.